Afrei lechin Chanukah Rabboisai. Rabboisai. We're holding a daf, Tzadik Dalet Omid Beis. In the middle of a sugi, it's like 2, 4, 6, 7 lines from the top. We just finished saying that we're talking about a situation, there's a difference between rubbing. If you don't rub clothing during laundering, then it's not considered kibus, it's not considered laundering. Ask the Gemara, Ihachi beged nami. We learned this yesterday, we'll say it again. If so then what's the problem to spill a little bit of water, to pour some water on clothing if you're not rubbing the beged together, you're not putting beged to beged, you're just pouring water. Says the Gemara, beged shriyosai zeu kibusai. When it comes to clothing, soaking it, just putting it in water, you don't have to rub it, that is considered laundering. The Rava Tamei, the Rava goes according to his own reasoning, the Omar Rava, Zorak Sudul L'mayim Chayiv. Just throwing some sort of beged into water, you're Chayiv because that's soaking it, and soaking it is considered laundering. Zorak Zera Pishtal L'mayim Chayiv. And if you throw a flaxseed into water, that itself is considered that you are planting. You don't have to plant it in the ground, even into water. It says the Gemara Bishlam Sudor Ovet Kibus. I understand putting clothing into water, soaking it, that's laundering. El Zera Pishtal, my time. But why is it that when you put a seed into water, why are you over? Because you'll have sprouts. Yeah, people eat this stuff like this. So wheat, barley do the same thing. Put it in water, it'll start sprouting. So why does it say you can't put pishtan? It should say anything you can't put into water. It says Gemara, Hanach Islu Riri. The flax has some sort of sticky substance to it, and that's the problem. The Gemara is going to explain. So too, it also has some sticky mucus or whatever you want to call it that should be usher to put 2 pieces of leather into water. Hasam klavid lisha. The isser is to bring 2 things together. When you put flour and water, you mix it so you are kneading it. And by putting water, flax seeds into water, that sticky substance creates a certain type of kneading. Like when it gets together, they stick to each other, it's like kneading. Dorash Rava. So Rava gets up there, and he says, Mutter l'chabes middle b'shabes. Omer a popular Rava. Omer Rav Chiya Rashi, Zim Sagin have a ku'im ne'kamed Rav. This is like the 4th time we're having this. Says, Rav Chiya was a Talmud by Rav, and I was there many times. I used to wash his shoes off with water. You can't launder it, you're allowed to rinse it. So that was it. Well, that was a bomb kasha. So says the Gemara, listen to this, and we had it a few times in Shas. So he gets up there, in front of everybody. This is Rava. Rava, Galadar, V'darash. Dvarim shamarti lefneichem, tosem biyadi. I'm one of the greatest Amoraim that lived, and you should know, I also make mistakes. I made a mistake. This is what the halacha is. Shich shuch mutter, you're allowed to rinse a shoe. Kibus also, you're not allowed to launder the shoe. End the story. And you all know that person that makes a mistake. I didn't mean it. That's not exactly what I meant. You misunderstood me. That. No, I made a mistake. That's it. I'm taking it back. This is the halacha. Humans make mistakes also. Akibus b'makom kadosh. The laundering of the chatas. So again, what are we talking about? We're talking about one carbon called the chatas. Chatas, the blood of the chatas goes on your garment. You have to take it out. You have to wash it. Where? Only in the Beis Hamikdash. You don't bring it home in your washing machine. You do it in the Beis Hamikdash. How do I know? The Torah Rabbanon, the Chavis, Malkim Kadosh. It says Mefurish in the pasuk. You should wash it in a holy place. In other words, in the Beis Hamikdash. Shviras kli cheres minayin. How do I know that if you cook in an earthenware pot, any carbon, chatas, but it's really any carbon. We discussed it yesterday, and the Rashi holds every carbon. The Rambam argues. How do you know? They have to break it. Why do you have to break it, Rabbi Yisai? Because there's blias of the carbon in there, and that is noisar. See, maybe that is noisar. You have to break the kli cheres. And when you have this pot made out of copper, how do you know that you have to rinse it out well? We're going to see what it means exactly. Cold water, hot water, whole rinsing situation. If you cooked it in a copper pot, you have to do the process of marika and shtifa and water. Then in the Mishnah we learned that this idea of rinsing the clothing, washing the clothing, that's unique to a chatos. And that's zechayim b'chatos. The difference between all karbanos and a chatos is one thing, laundering. That's where we understood the Mishnah. We're going to change our opinion. We're going to say that at the end that there's a number of things that chatos is different. But the Gemara says, v'su leka. I'll give you a list of things that chatos is different than all other karbanos. For instance, the blood of the chatos goes all the way into Kodesh HaKadoshim. It goes into the heichal. Says the Gemara, you're right. But the Mishnah is talking about what's the difference between the outer chatas, not the inner chatas, not the chatas you do on Yom Kippur. The typical chatas you do on a daily basis, what's the difference? You have to wash your clothing if blood gets on your clothing from the chatas. What about Shem Nichnas Dama Lifnim Psula? Where is that pasuk? Here. We had a sugi about it, but here's the pasuk. V'chol chatas asher yuva midama eloi el mayed l'chavak lo yisiyach v'eish t'saref. If you bring the blood of a chatas into the heichal, the whole carbon becomes possible. And that's unique to a chatas. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Kiva dama called dam shenichnas leichal l'chaber psulim. No, Rabbi Kiva holds that applies to all karbanas. Shekei mechaber malchayove krisos. The chatas forgives a krisos, an avera that there's karas on. If you do a b'mezid, you get karas. B'shoy you bring a chatas. That's unique to a chatas. There's no other carbon that goes on a karas. Says the Gemara, the chatas the shmias kol. Look at this pasuk. V'nefesh kisechta v'shama kol olav u'eid. You know testimony, you don't want to testify, you lie. So for that, you have to bring a chat. That's not krisos. That's the chatas the Mishnah is talking about. What difference does this chatas that comes on this pasuk have with all other karbanos? That you have to wash the clothing. Shekain tuuna arba matanos. Oh, let's see arba matanos. This is not a good depiction. This is arba matanos, but from other karbanos. What's wrong with this? This is arba matanos, but why is this not a chatas?
It's on the bottom.
Oh,
It's on the bottom.
it's on the bottom. It's on the bottom, and it's also with the kli. A chatas would be on the top, and it would be with your finger. Chatas is above the red line, the only carbon above the red line, right? But this is 4 walls, which has to do with the next line in the Gemara. But chatas is on 4 walls on the top. Rabbi Shmuel, the Omar, kol damim tuunim arba matanos. All here. Let me just show you. This is shtaim shein arba, right? Most karbanas, besides chatos, go like this. You hit the southwest corner and the northeast corner, and that's it. You hit it once, and it spreads on 2 walls. A chatas you have to do deliberately on each wall. You have to do 1 matana. That's 4. It's not 2 that are 4. It's 4. It's different than all other karbanas. No, Rabbi Shmuel, the Omar called Davim Tun Arba Matanos. Rabbi Shmuel says you should do this. So this is Rabbi Shmuel. The one I showed you over here. Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. Now ask the Gemara al Arba Kronos, but you have to put it on the horn of the Mizbeach, only the Chatos. Says the Gemara, okay, but I'll ask you a question. What do you do with all these 3 things? Where do we have that? Like this picture right over here. What is this guy doing? He's doing 3 things. First of all, it's on the top horn. It's on the spitz. How do you say spitz in English? Is there a good word for that? On the point. And it's also with his finger. And no other carbon do you have to do that. So the bottom line says the Gemara, Elo chad mitrei plus a chumrei nakat. The Mishnah, you're right. There's different chumras. You have a list of 3-4 things. Great. I'm going to tell you one. Just so you should know, chatas is more severe than all the other karbanos. Why? Because you have to launder it. You have other things. You're right. Add them to the list. But I only said 1 out of the 3 things on the list. Rabbi Isai, easy stuff. New Mishnah. You You have a garment that went outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Nichnas umechapsoi b'mokem kodesh. You must bring it back into the Beis Hamikdash. You have, again, it's clothing that has blood on it. We're talking about kibbutz still. A beged that has blood and you have to wash it, you can't wash it at all. So bring it back into the Beis Hamikdash. Now what happens? You have a problem. Nitma, chutz l'klayim. It became tamei. So what's the problem? If it's tamei, how are you going to bring it back into the Beis Hamikdash now? You can't bring something that's tamei into the Beis Hamikdash. And what are you going to do? You're going to rinse it at home. You can't rinse it at home. So you have a problem. What do? Koiroi, you rip the clothing. So once you rip the clothing, it's not clothing anymore. It's tahar. The tumah escapes, and now you can rinse it. The problem is that if it's not a beged anymore, then you don't have to rinse it. So you have to do a trick, as the Gemara is going to explain. You have to do something that makes the tumah leave, but it remains a beged halachically so that you could rinse it. How do you do that? Huh?
From its purpose.
You can, no. Once it's tumah, you can't be mevatel in your head.
No. You remove it. You rip it enough that it's mevatel from its original kli purpose.
Oh, very good. How do you know that? From knowing different mesechtas. Very good. That's a tough one. You rip it enough that it. Let's say you have a suit. So you rip it in a way like kriya, Rahman al-Islam. You rip it in a way that you can't use it as a suit anymore. So that's it. That removes the tumah. But it's still a beged, because now I can use it as a blanket. I don't know what. You can use it for another purpose. It's still a beged. But since the original usage goes away, then the tumah goes away. Okay, that we'll see in the Gemara. You rip it, and you go in with it to the Beis Hamikdash, and you're able to launder it in the Beis Hamikdash. You have earthenware that went outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and this earthenware, you cooked achatos, you cooked something in it, but now it's outside the Beis Hamikdash, and you have to break it in the Beis Hamikdash. Nichnas v'shoyver b'makom kodesh, you bring it back into the Beis Hamikdash, and you break it in the Beis Hamikdash. Nitma chutz l'klayim, once again we have the same problem. Now it became tamei in the Beis Hamikdash. It became tamei, it's outside the Beis Hamikdash. Now what do? You can't bring it into the Beis Hamikdash because it's tamei. And if you break it outside the Beis Hamikdash, you can't do that. You have to break it in the Beis Hamikdash. Why do you have to break it? Because it's noisar. It has blias of noisar. So what do? Noikvai. You make a hole in it, and by making a hole in it, it removes the tumah. And then v'nichnas v'shoyver b'makom kodesh. Then you bring it into the Beis Hamikdash, and you break it in the Beis Hamikdash. All right, so we have a nekev. Now, it's not the kli that it was used before, as a whole. Now what? But now we have to break it. So I bring it back into the Beis Hamikdash. You ready? You have copper that you cooked the chatos in, and it went outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Nichnas u'markoi v'shoytvoi b'makom kodesh. You go. You have to bring it back inside the Beis Hamikdash, and then you do all the rinsing. Nitma chutz l'klayim. What happens if it becomes tamei outside the Beis Hamikdash and you can't bring it into the Beis Hamikdash because it's tamei? Poichas, so you make a giant hole in it. V'nichnas u'markoi v'shoytvoi b'makom kodesh. Masgul Ravina. Koiroi, how do you rip this clothing and take out the tumah? Beged omer achmon avalav begedu. Once you rip it, it's not a garment anymore. Says the Gemara, the Mishayir bo kedei ma poires. You leave, you make it, you could still use it. In other words, the original use is gone. You're right. So the tumah escapes. But it's still a beged that you could rinse it off. Why? Because you could still use it as some sort of handkerchief, some sort of, what do these yeshiva guys wear in the summer? Scarves, something. Even if you leave a handkerchief, it's still makabel tumah. There's still tumah. What do you tell me? So if you got a handkerchief in there, you got some sort of scarf, then you didn't gain anything. The tumah is in there. You want to get rid of the tumah. Says Gemara, midrabbanan. The fact that this tumah is only the rabbanan, midraisa the tumah escapes, and therefore I can bring it into the Beis Hamikdash to wash. So says the Gemara, kli cheres sheyatza, kli omer achmana, v'loy kliyu. If you're gonna poke a hole in this kli like we just did, then it's not a kli. Once you poke the hole, says the Gemara, it is shenika b'shorish katan. There's a small. It's very very small, the hole, and a small branch could sneak into it. So it remains, in other words, you lose the original purpose, but it's still a kli. Taisus takes issue with this lashon. He says, where in Shas do we see a root? Shirish is a root. Where do you see a root? You see different sizes, kazayas, kabetza, pomegranate, this, that, and root. There's different shurim, like a hole large enough for water to come out, a hole large enough for water to come in. It's a little larger. Okay. What about the copper? You make a giant hole in it. Oh, v'lav kli. Once you made a giant hole, so what are you bringing back into the Beis Hamikdash to rinse out? It's not a kli. You don't rinse something that's a non-kli. The rotzav mirtzav. You have to like hit it back together with a hammer, and they take it and weld it back together. Omer Shlakish. Me'il shenitma. Now we're talking about a garment of a kohen gadol here. Just to remind everyone, these are the 8 garments of the kohen gadol. One of them is the me'il, all the way on the left. This guy. So now we have a serious issue. The me'il has blood, and it became tummy, and it's outside of the Beis Hamikdash. What do? You can't bring it into the Beis Hamikdash. Why? It's tummy. You can't wash it outside of the Beis Hamikdash. You don't wash outside the Beis Hamikdash. So I have an idea. Take a knife, take a scissors, cut out the piece that became tummy, that became that's full of blood, and bring it into the Beis Hamikdash. So no, you can't do that. Why not? Well, because you can't rip, you can't tear. What's shalish al shalish? Rabbi said to remind the olam, 3 by 3 means 3 by 3 fingers. Shloisha shloisha means 3 by 3 tvachim. So you stand there by the door. It's very tedious. You stand by the door of the Beis Hamikdash. You drag in a small part of it. That's only 3. You go like this. Okay, these 3. You wash. The next 3. It's like it could take hours, days. 3 in the door. Another 3 in the door. You wash and you keep on moving. You can't rip it. It says that if the cloth is very thick or very thin, like felt, says Rashi, but the kohen gadol's garment is very thick. I don't know if this is a good depiction, but it's made out of 12 threads of these, similar to these colors. You have a little tchelis there, a little, what's the other ones? Agam and Telashani. So it's thick. What's the whole idea? If it's 3 by 3, usually you don't use it, but sometimes you can use it as a patch. But not if it's made out of this stuff. Nobody's going to use a patch that's really thick. So even that is not, shalish is not the real shear for it. In other words, now we're going to jump up to the next year. What's the next year? Shloisha. So why can't you drag in 3 tfachim every time wash and another 3 tfachim? It's going to be a lot easier. Why 3 by 3 fingers? 3 by 3 fingers only works for normal clothing, not for this very thick stuff. Says Gemara, since the 3 by 3 fingers are attached to the larger garment called the me'il, so every 3 fingers worth is a beged chashuv, and that's why you can't go more than 3 fingers. You can't go 3 tfachim because it's too much. Every 3 fingers has a chashivas. Ask the Gemara Kasha. Take a look. These are the 7 ingredients, the 7 chemicals, so to speak, how you wash a beged. And as we're going to see, there's a certain order. You can't just put them all together. Roik tafel means saliva, but tafel, it's special. You didn't eat that thing. It's pure. It's the real deal. Ingredient number 2 is megrisen. You chew the some sort of bean. No, it's not barley. No, something else. It's like pull. Is fava. I don't know what it's called. Some sort of bean. Mereg is urine. And we know urine has some sort of chemical. The Gemara always talks about it, that you could use it for tchelas to see if it's real tchelas, fake tchelas, neser, virus, kamonia, ashlag. That's the Gemara bomb question. How could you wash this garment from the blood? Take the blood out with the 7 samanim. That's what we're talking about. The blood of a chatos. Umaris negoim and saras. The way to wash it, you don't put it in the sink with water. You have to use chemicals. We say it every day. And if you say the reason why you're allowed to bring this meiraglaim into the Beis Hamikdash is because it's mixed in with the other chemicals, so you don't really notice it. But if you bring it into the Beis Hamikdash, you use these chemicals out of order. Let's say you do number 3 before number 1, no good. Or you even mixed all 7 of them. So that's exactly what we're talking about. You mix all 7 together and you want to be mevatel, so to speak, the meiraglaim. It doesn't work. Says the Gemara, okay, so you don't mix all 7 together, but you can mix 2, let's say. You have to rub. You put one on, you put the solvent on, and you rub. Put another one, rub. Says the Gemara, what you do is, you take the meiraglaim and you add a lot of spit to it, a lot of saliva. And that's okay. So if we look at the list again, listen to this. Step number 1, a lot of spit. Step number 2, a lot of spit with mei grisen. Step number 3, a lot of spit with meiraglaim. Step number 4, a lot of spit with neser. B'kitzer, the meiraglaim gets absorbed or mixed in, and that's okay to bring into the Beis Hamikdash, something like that. Says the Mishnah, if you cook in a pot, or you pour hot chatas water, I should say. So let's say you cook the chatas in pot A, and you take that, when it's done cooking, you pour it into pot B. That's enough to require mirika and shtifa. L'mashal, on Shabbos also, there's a concept called irui. So even if you have something that, typically speaking, I'm throwing it out just as a bad example, let's say instant coffee. Instant coffee in a klisheni is not a problem. But maybe if you were to pour the hot water on it like this, the irui, the fact that it's pouring on it, it causes more of a bishul. Okay? Stop. Irui means to pour. Pouring has more heat to it, more effect to it. So therefore, even though you didn't cook the chatas in this pot, you poured the hot water into the pot, it requires mirigu shtifa. Rabbi Shimon Omer, kachim kalim ain't tunim mirigu shtifa. So the Tanakama says all karbanos require mirigu shtifa. Rabbi Shimon Omer says no, only kachim, not kachim kalim. Tana Rabbana, asher tevushal ein li'el shebishul boy. Ariel toicha retech minayin. How do I know even pouring? From the lashon asher tevushal boy, it should have said it a little differently. So we learn from there that even pouring. Boy Rabbi Barcham. To Leiba avir taner mau. We have a gewaldika here. To Leiba avir taner means, what if the meat of the chatas is not touching the walls? It's hanging in middle of the. Now, how come the juice over here, you don't call that a blia? This is a bad picture because they say because the juice hits the coals on the bottom and gets absorbed in the coals. The sides are not getting touched by any of the juices. It just happens to be cooking inside the oven. So the shaila is abishul bilua the cover. Do you need 2 things? Do you need cooking and absorption in the walls of the oven, and over here you only have bishul, you don't have bilua. Or dilma bishul below bilua. Even cooking it in a pot without it touching the walls is also considered something that you need a break. Let's say if you did this in an earthenware oven, you would have to break it, you'd have to wash it. We're talking about washing now. Omar al v'tashma, let me bring you a raya. Echad shebishul boy v'echad she'ira l'toichoy reteach. So over here, ira, there was no bishul. What do you have when you do irui? Only blias, no cooking. It's 1 out of the 2. So you see, 1 out of the 2 is okay. It's enough to make it that you have to wash it. Says Gemara, no, that wasn't my question. I wasn't asking any 1 out of the 2. I was asking dafka bishul without blias. Blias without bishul, I agree with you. You're going to have to wash. Because there's blias, there's nicer in there. But what about just bishul? What about cooking without absorbing? Toshma. We'll just go to the Ahu Tanura. The oven in the Beis Hamikdash was made out of metal. Why was it made out of metal? Because it seems like if it was made out of earthenware, you'd have to break it every time you use it. It's made out of earthenware. You got to break it. It says you got to break earthenware that you use for cooking. Now, ask the Gemara. Who has an art scroll over here? If you have an art scroll, not Hebrew, English, tell me what the Gemara's kasha is over here. And if you're telling me that cooking without absorption is not a problem, make the oven out of earthenware. How's that going to help? So you make it out of earthenware. What's the pshat? Rabbi said, so you make it out of earthenware.
You're allowed to make it out of
Hold on. You should be allowed to make it out of earthenware. Why? Why is it no blias?
because it's only bishul.
Why? Why is it only bishul? Hold on, you have an art scroll?
No.
So look in the art scroll. What does the art scroll say pshat? Rabbi Schoenberg, what's pshat? Okay, anyway. My point is that you have to add a couple words here. We're still talking that it's hanging in midair. You're using a spit. You have to say that you're using a spit. But it's important to put it in the pshat, yeah? We're talking about that this animal is on a spit. I'm saying if you're holding cup from before, you might figure it out. But it's kedai to put those words in, if you have a pencil. Put it on a spit. And if you put it on a spit, it's not touching the walls, it's in the air, and you're doing bishul without blias. Says Gemara, you have this, Rabbi Isai, where was it? Yeah, from the fact that we don't use that as a raya, that one is a problem. You remember this with the breads? So this is what we also had in the Beis Hamikdash. And one of the things that we do in order to put the bread onto the wall, they take oil and they smear it on the mincha. Pretend this is this. And now it could stick well to the side of the oven. So that oil of the mincha would go into the walls. That's the problem. And then you have a blia of oil in the wall, and that's why we can't use earthenware. That's why we used the metal. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.